Let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought about what makes the U.S. such a melting pot of a country? It is important to know why people's attitudes and behaviors are based on their values and customs. It is also important to know why the United States is made up of a diverse ethnic groups that have come to shape America's values to this day. I can speak on this topic because I am an African American and I know the impact that my culture, as well as other cultures, have had on the United States. The purpose of this presentation is to inform you on African American culture in the United States. I will first explain to you the traditional customs and religion. Second, I will explain to you the traditional cuisine. And third, I will explain the impact that the culture has had on the U.S. In addition to Native Americans, the population of the United States was built on immigrants from other countries. Over 40% of Africans entered the U.S. through the transatlantic slave trade. This was the process of trading African slaves for agricultural products in return to sell them to Europe for profit. The earliest African Americans came from different ethnic groups and tribes, which left a mixture of ritual, religious, and customs. In the article, America's Cultural Roots Traced to Enslaved African Ancestors by Howard Dodson, early African Americans created something new out of the material resources found in their new environment, and they built religious rituals, festivals, and social gatherings on the foundation of song, dance, and rhythms that they invented to cope with the new world. African American culture developed separately from American culture, both because of slavery and of the persistence of racial discrimination, as well as African Americans wanting to keep traditions and customs of their own. In the article I read, Black English During Slavery by Paulette Hines, she explains how slave owners mixed Africans of different tribes that spoke different language to discourage communication other than English. As a result, this combined with a simplified mixture of two or more languages that speakers of different languages could use to communicate, called pidgins. Examples of these pidgins that became fully developed languages of today are Creole, common of Louisiana, and Gullah, common of the Sea Islands off the coast of South Carolina and Georgia. African religion originated in various regions in Africa, such as Kush and Egypt. During colonization, many slaves were converted to Christianity. Alan Dwight Callahan, author of African Americans in the Bible, talks about why slaves crossed the religious divide and hope for inspiration in Christianity in the Bible. Callahan states in the early phase of the Christianization, slaves were told short stories through the Bible. When they encountered these stories, they made their own short stories and turned them into songs we now call today Negro spirituals. Some African rituals were similar to baptism, which was also made it less difficult for slaves to be converted into Christians. There were many African slaves who came to the New World as Muslims who spoke Arabic as well. Muslims were brought to the United States and with distinct cultural religious belief maintained their identity. According to information I found on the National Museum of African American History, enslaved Muslims used jobs such as bookkeepers, personal servants, and coachmen to gain physical mobility, gain American business practices, and access early information that was only obtained through white culture. According to information that I found on the National Museum of African American History website, enslaved Muslims obtained jobs such as bookkeepers, personal servants, and coachmen to gain physical mobility, practice American business practices, and access information normally obtained to white society. Now that I discussed some of the customs and religion, I will now explore the traditional cuisine of the African American. African American food is called soul food. It is a fusion between Native American, West African, and European dishes. An article in the U.S. History Scene states that on plantations during slavery, slaves had to do the butchering and slaughtering of the meat. The lesser cuts of the meat was given to the Africans, such as the feet, head, ribs, fat back, and internal organs. To hide these poor flavors of meat, enslaved people drew inspiration from traditional African cooking and used a powerful mixture of red pepper and vinegar to season the smoked meats. Many Southerners later adopted this hot pepper vinegar method in the flavoring for all cuts of meat, and this is still the combination that serves as the base for many barbecue sauces. Other food described as soul food are chitterlings, black-eyed peas, collard greens, sweet potatoes, okra, and cornbread. Slaves ate corn with every meal. Native Americans had shared the method of making bread with corn instead of wheat. To prepare this bread, dough from corn was made in water. The dough was covered with leaves, and then the covered dough was put over hot ashes to bake. Developed from Native American influence, many slaves combined their own varieties and mixtures of cornbread, and recipes eventually made their way into plantation kitchens. Now that I have discussed African American cuisine, I will now discuss the impact that African American culture has had on the United States. African American culture has a deeply rooted impact on the U.S. today, from Southern cuisine to agriculture. Africans supplied intense labor, skillfulness in the cultivation of many crops, including the first rice seed that grew in America. They used three methods to grow this rice, from systems in groundwater, spring, and soil moisture. African Americans are also responsible for many inventions that contributed to the advancement of American society today. For example, Garrett Morgan, who was born in Kentucky in 1877, invented something that most of us utilize every day, the traffic signal. He invented this after witnessing many accidents at busy intersections in urban cities. African Americans are also recognized in the month of February, and this is called Black History Month. This explains many contributions that different African Americans had that helped the advancement of the U.S. today. This concludes my presentation on African American culture. I explained its origins, traditional cuisine, and its cultural impact that it has had on the U.S. A wise African has said, milk and honey may be different colors, but they share the same household peacefully, as we do here in the United States. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment box below. And thanks for watching.